Hi, I'm Dr. Francesca Zampollo, and this is In Search of Meaningful Food. Today's story belongs to Will. I met Will when I was volunteering at the Mangrove Yoga Ashram. You can have a look at the link up here for a related video. Will is Australian. His meaningful food is definitely Australian, but it's also playful, resourceful, and deeply, profoundly emotional. You'll love it. Thank you, Will, for sharing your wonderful, meaningful food story.
Um, Briefly, my meaningful food was an experience as much as it was a dish, and it's very much in my experience of food, the experience often makes it something meaningful, whereas by itself, it's just food. I was brought up being told that food is fuel, and um, it's very much not the case for me. Anyway, the meaningful food story for me is when the one that I was brought to mind was when my wife and I were traveling around Australia, and we were traveling on a very low budget. So we often played a game with our food where we would get a very small budget. One person would go and do the shopping, usually in a outback or a small town, in a supermarket, which always seemed to have kangaroo on sale, because in the cities kangaroo is considered a reasonable meat, but most Australians refer to kangaroo as rat meat. So kangaroo was always very cheap, and often the whatever else was on quick sale, which means it's about to go off or they can't sell. So we ended up with highly eclectic ingredients, just random stuff that wouldn't normally go together. So with that small budget, that's pretty much all we could buy. And then we tied up in a bag, and then when we got to our first campsite, the other person would be given the bag and told to cook. And you had to basically within an hour come up with some food. It got really competitive because my wife and I both like cooking. And anyway, so one of the experiences we had with that game was we pulled up in this place called Arkarula, which is out in Central Australia. It's quite an open. It's a big sheep station, huge, and it's incredibly Australian. It's dry, it's broad, it's an environment where you could be nowhere else on the planet, as far as I know. And the dish or the bag that I was given contained some kangaroo, some eggplants, which were going off, and they were very soft. And I was like, I can't really do anything with these, but give it a go. And we had some spices. We always had a staple of spices, and basically some capsicum. And I was given this, and we'd forgotten to fill our gas bottle, which we use for our stove. So I had a beautiful pan, which was we used on the stove, but we never used it on the fire because the type of pan it was would just crack if you used it on the fire. It didn't cope with that kind of heat. So we were buggered. We were like, oh, what are we going to do? So Amy said, yeah, too bad, you have to cook. It's your turn. So we set a fire, which we very rarely did, but we had to cook. And the fireplace had already had some big flat river stones around it, and the stones got quite hot. And I was racking my mind, unsure what to do. But the eggplants presented themselves an opportunity to make baba ganoush, which is a Middle Eastern eggplant dip. And one of the most important things that's often missed with baba ganoush is creating a smoky flavour, which, in a lot of restaurants and commercial baba ganoush you just don't get. And the wood that we used was Mali wood, which is a very common wood in that kind of part of the country, but it has a very distinctly Australian taste to it. I don't know, I can't think of how to describe it otherwise, but it's got a hint of eucalypt kind of thing, and it makes a beautiful earthy smoke flavour, which penetrated as we cooked the eggplants on the stone. kangaroo is best cooked. It's like venison. It's best cooked, sealed. You don't do much to it. You seal it. You treat it with good respect when you do it. You don't try and cook it in a stew or what's. It's very similar to venison. It's a game meat. So the stones were hot enough to be able to seal the meat directly on the stones, which was wonderful. And in my experience, one of the best things in the world to go with kangaroo is capsicum, red capsicum or peppers, whatever you want to call them. And blistering, roasting capsicums by a smoky fire again is an incredible, wonderful thing. So this particular meal already presented a tasty goodness, but the meaningful nature of it was massively improved by a bottle of wine that we had in the car for a couple of weeks. That's why we had no money, because we spent it all in the winery regions of South Australia. And this bottle of wine, I'm pretty sure it was a Cab Sauv, Cabernet Sauvignon, and from a place called Wira Estate. I'm pretty sure it was that one. It might not have been. Could be getting confused with that, but it was just something incredible happened with the tannins of the Cab Sauv, the smokiness of the meat, sitting in this place where the sky and the earth meet, and you are like, you are what you are in those environments. There's nowhere to hide. And we just sat there and had this very simple but beautiful meal, and it's something I don't think I'll ever forget. It's embossed on my mind. Well, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you want to see more, don't forget to click on subscribe. And if you have a meaningful food story you'd like to share, I can't wait to see it. Just get in touch and it will be featured in this channel. See you soon and happy meaningful food!